Welcome to Detroit's Darkest Times. I want you to go ahead and smash the big three, share. Today I got another hot story I want to share with you. This takes place in the South. This is me, my stepbrother, a lady friend, and her ex-husband. And we end up getting a trailer in this little town in Tennessee. Buy this new trailer, put it in this trailer park. Then while we're staying there, the lady friend of mine is talking to her ex-husband, and he's in Kentucky. And he says he wants to come and check out the new place and check out Tennessee. So he says, I'm going to get on a Greyhound bus and y'all come pick me up tomorrow. So he was like, all right, get on the bus and we'll be there to pick you up. And this is my stepbrother's father, is who this is. So he gets on the Greyhound. He calls us when he gets there. We go pick him up. So this guy's he's a good guy, and he likes to party, and like I said, he's from Kentucky, but he's lived a lot in Detroit City too. So we pick him up, take him to the place where we live. Was actually in a trailer park, but it was a brand new trailer. And then I take him to some place called Blue Hole. These are creeks that you go swimming in. And I take him there, and his ex-wife is the assistant manager at Taco Bell in this town. And then when she's at the Taco Bell, we go to the big Blue Hole and get beer and go over there to swim and enjoy a summer day. While we're over there, I got my stepbrother with me too. And actually, both my stepbrothers and my half-sisters with me. And with that dude. And then we're swimming, enjoying the day. Then I meet this girl, and she has a daughter. She's a pretty thing. So I start talking to her and stuff like that. And she tells me she lives in this motel with her daughter, just staying at this motel, paying weekly rent. And she was like, you think after the day's over, y'all could drop us off at the motel because we walked over here. And then I was like, yeah, we can do that. And anyways, we enjoyed the day over there, talking, swimming, having a few beers. And then we leave and take her back to drop her off at the motel. Meanwhile, my stepbrother's dad, me and him off to the side at the creek, and he's like, wow, man, she's pretty. You gonna hook up with her? And I said, I'm trying to. Anyways, we're talking and stuff like that. So we give her a ride back to the motel. And then I get her phone number to the motel. And actually her room number, basically. And the phone number at the room. But anyways, she's talking pretty good, so I think me and her gonna hook up. So I told her, I said, I'm gonna plan a party Saturday, and I'll call you and see if you want to come. And if you want to come, we'll come pick you up. 'Cause she didn't have no car. So meanwhile, we Saturday rolls around, we get all the party goods and stuff. Cause we normally party. We're from Detroit, and at this time. And so anyway, we get the party goods and stuff like that. I call her, and she said, "Yeah, I want to come, but I got to bring my daughter." And at this time, I have a half sister that's around about her daughter's age, or maybe a little older, a couple years older. So she had somebody to play with. But anyways, we go pick her up, take her over there, and we're having a get together. And it's that lady, the dude from Kentucky, me, and this girl, and then my two step brothers and my half sister, and anyways, they're all outside playing, hanging out with their friends and stuff, and then the grown ups are just having a get together. But anyways, we're talking. Then she talks to the dude from Kentucky, his wife, and this is actually her trailer. And talking to her and telling her just in a regular conversation that she's living in a hotel and how much she's paying for the hotel and stuff like that. And this lady is, from Detroit. And so she says, well, instead of you paying all that, why don't you just pay me this and you can come stay here if you and him's gonna hook up. And then she was like, yeah, we're gonna hook up. So that's what happened. She ended up moving out of the hotel, moving in to the place with us. Not for a long time, for a little while, maybe, I don't know, 2 months, something like that. Might have been 3 months. But anyways, everybody's having a good time, stuff like that. And so everybody's getting to know each other, talking and stuff like that. So after that, she ends up getting her a place. No, I think she ends up going to stay with another friend because for some reason her and that lady had a falling out, a disagreement or something as time passed after about 3 months or something. And I think it was just arguing, had a falling out over the children, which was her daughter and then that lady's daughter. Something like that. Something really didn't make sense, but they had a disagreement, so she ended up leaving and going to stay with a friend of hers and all that. So, anyways, one weekend we're sitting around this place, just casually talking, and now it's just me and my stepbrother's dad and his ex-wife. We're sitting around talking, and he's telling his ex-wife and me, he's like, "Hey, I got a cousin in Kentucky, and me and him a long time ago, me and him bought some property together, and so we're half owners of it." He said, "But I'm thinking about selling my half to him, you know." And then his ex old lady said, "Well, get her on the phone and see what kind of deal you could work out." So he gets on the phone. He's talking to his cousin, and his cousin decides to give him I think it was 5,000 and a Monte Carlo to buy him out of his part of the property. And so he agrees to it. So he says the following weekend, he told his cousin he'd be there to collect the money and get the car. And his cousin said, all right, come on. And so the following weekend, we load up in the car. It's me, my stepbrother, and him and his ex-wife, and we go to Kentucky. And my other stepbrother and my half sister stays there and with the babysitter. But anyways, we ride to Kentucky, and this is over the weekend. And as we're riding to Kentucky, my stepbrother, and he's let me see how old he is at this time. He's about, I don't know, his age ain't important. But anyways, he tells me on the way there, that he's got an uncle, which is his dad that's with us, his brother, and he's got some issues, where he like goes off sometimes. And he's had a few problems with the law in that town in Kentucky and stuff like that. And I'm talking to his dad as we're riding too, and his dad said, "Yeah, he's had a few problems like that, but he's all right." So we get over there, and when we get there, his sister owns a liquor store over there. So first thing we do, he wants to see his sister, and actually go get some drinks and stuff like that. So he goes straight to the liquor store first thing. So we get over there, and then everybody's picking out, liquor and beer and stuff like that. And then we get it up to the register, and then his sister's talking and, glad to see him and all that. So she said, we ain't got to pay. And then we're trying to, definitely pay for our stuff. And she's like, no, y'all ain't going to pay. Your money ain't no good here. So anyways, we had all this stuff and she didn't charge us anything for it. So then we go to show up at his mom's house. But then his next door to his mom is his brother's house. It's a 2-story house. And I believe his brother built it or he bought it and he's fixing it up or something. Because anyways, we went over there first to see his brother, and his brother had this big place and had all new drywall and all this other stuff. So he'd been fixing it up. And then that's where the party started. Everybody was just started partying there because he had a big place, but it was just him and there was nobody else there. So I'm getting introduced to him and stuff like that. We're having some drinks. And then I asked him, I said, what are you doing in this big house, all by yourself? And because I didn't know the dude's history or anything. And then he said, well, I got this house and fixed it up because my kids got taken away from me. And I forget where his old lady was at. I think he said his kids got taken and his old lady left. I think that's what the deal was. But he was trying to fix the house up, I guess trying to get his old lady back and get his kids back. Because something that, some incident he blew up and I forget all the details, but it was something about him and the law and all this. He had a big blow up there in that town or whatever. But anyways, he's telling me all that, and then, meanwhile, everybody's drinking Jack Daniels, and beer, and everything's going good, and stuff like that. And then the more that guy gets intoxicated, and remember, this guy is the guy that my stepbrother was telling me that had some issues, and it was his dad's brother. Well, he seemed pretty cool, at the beginning, but after he's drinking so much of Jack Daniels and stuff like that, then you could kind of see the change in him. But as the evening progressed, we went next door to see his mom, stuff like that, talked to her. They introduced me to her and stuff like that. Well, then me and him go back over to his brother's house, and then his ex-old lady stays at his mom's house, and just talking and catching up on stuff. And then we get over there, and then his brother's getting more intoxicated, and he's talking about his kids and his wife and stuff like that, and he's getting real ill, that I guess because he lost his kids and all that. So then I'm starting to think, well, maybe it's time to leave. So I told my stepbrother's dad, I was like, hey, you ready to go? And he was like, no, we'll hang out a little bit longer. So we stayed there a little while. And then later on, that dude, he pulls a gun out and he sets it on the table, a handgun. And then I'm like, oh, this ain't looking too good. I'm just thinking this to myself. But anyway, he's going on and on about his old lady and kids, and he's talking to me and talking to his brother and all that. Well, then finally, I decide I'm gonna get up and leave, because once he pulled the gun and set it on the table, I knew that possibly there might be a problem. So, but I believe he pulled the gun out at first just to show us the gun, I guess show us what kind it was and all that, So went through that phase, and then later I told my stepbrother's dad, I said, hey, I'm going to go ahead and go, because the plan was we was going to stay at his mom's house, which was next door, until the next day, and then we was going to go to his cousin's house. But then his brother blew up and started saying a whole bunch of stuff because he was well intoxicated on Jack Daniels and beer and stuff like that. So this was a cat that couldn't handle his alcohol, for one. But anyways, then he started, blowing up and stuff like that, and saying stuff to his brother and stuff, then saying stuff to me. And we was just at first doing just casually talking about stuff, So that's what it escalated in. Then I seen the part of the dude that my stepbrother was telling me on the way to Kentucky. I knew that he had, it seemed like he just had a screw loose or something, but you really couldn't tell it why he wasn't drinking. But anyways, then he's getting ill with his brother, and then he hits his brother, and then he grabs the gun and points it at me. So I take off, because I ain't going to give him a chance to shoot me, So I take off and I go next door, but he takes off after me and comes after me with the gun. Then I'm like, oh, shit, But anyways, what I do is I go in his mom's house, and his mom and his ex-old lady sitting on the couch, and they see me come in the house. I go straight to the bathroom and just hold the door shut. Not saying that's going to stop a bullet, but really I didn't know what this guy's intentions was, if he was really trying to shoot me or if he was just pulling a gun like a lot of folks do. A lot of people do that. They pull guns on people, but they won't even pull the trigger, And so anyways, he does that, but he comes following me in there, but I go ahead and go in the bathroom and hold the door shut. And then I hear the women yelling at him, and his mom gets up and she smacks him and takes the gun from him, And then, so I just stay in there until they come to let me know it's cool. So, anyways, his mom smacks him, takes the gun from him, and this is an older gentleman, and takes the gun from him and makes him go back to his house next door. So he leaves, and then the other dude's ex-wife comes to the bathroom and says, "You can come out, he's gone." But that was a crazy ass incident that happened in Kentucky. And you know, dude just got intoxicated, but he had a screw loose. And I was warned about dude, but when I met him, he seemed like a regular dude. He didn't seem like he, you know. And I think just really with all the stuff that he had been through before we got there, that he was telling us about his kids and his ex old lady. Well, I guess ex old lady because she left or whatever. And that, and then with him drinking and then having some kind of mental illness, you'd have to say that. But anyways, so his dad came back over too eventually, and then he was like, "Come on, we're gonna go." And his plan was just to go ahead and go to his cousin's at night because he didn't know if his brother was gonna show out again later on, so he didn't want to stick around to see. So he just said, "Come on, y'all, let's go." So we all got in the car and we went to his cousin's house, the guy that he was making a deal with to sell his part of the property. So we get over there and he's telling his cousin all about what happened and stuff like that. And then we end up crashing at that dude's house. And the next morning, we're getting ready to go back to Tennessee. But anyways, he ends up getting the $5,000. He signs a paper for that guy to get the title into his name, and the guy gives him $5,000 and the car, and then now we got 2 cars we're taking back. So we end up, and we still got a lot of liquor and beer because we bought a lot at that store. We didn't really buy it; she gave it to us. But anyways, where the party kind of came to an end, because that dude showed his ass. We ended up having this, so we took it back to Tennessee with us, and then we was going to actually party when we get back over to the place. So we get back to the place. Then we're having a get together there, and some people coming to visit, and having some drinks and stuff like that. And then 2 guys get in a fight outside the place, and then 2 guys get in a fight inside the place, and finally that was over. And then people had left and stuff like that. But that was just that was a crazy journey, But at least the dude got the $5,000 in the car. But we just ran into a few issues during that time. But it wasn't nothing major, because nothing really happened. But just the fact of the matter is the guy pulled a gun and all this other stuff. It was just uncalled for, and if I'd have knew, you never know what's going to happen. Even though my stepbrother warned me about the dude, he just said keep your eye on him because he's got a screw loose or whatever. So I was like, all right. But anyways, nobody knew the dude had a gun, first of all. And then later, his brother tells me he ain't even supposed to have a gun because he's a felon. And it was just a bunch of chaos and stuff. And I think later on down the road, they had told me that that dude ended up getting locked away because I think he had a shootout with the police in that town or something like that. And they just locked him away, probably for good. I don't know. But that was this one crazy incident, you know. And that dude needed to be disciplined because obviously he was doing some crazy stuff prior to that. The reason he lost his kids and lost his old lady, you know what I mean? But it was just crazy, a crazy incident. But we ended up getting the mission accomplished. What we went to Kentucky to do. But we just ran into a little issue. Wasn't nothing major. But that was one of the stories I wanted to share with y'all. Uh, and that was something else. But then there's another incident where these two guys got into it and got into a fight, a disagreement, and stuff like that in that area that we lived in. And I don't know really what it was all about, but they both got into it, and it was crazy. Another crazy incident. That was just basically a fight, but it's just some crazy stuff. Then I started dating this girl that lived in that trailer park. And then when I started dating her, she was telling me that her last ex old man, she told me his name, but I won't say his name on here. But anyway, she said that they had got into an argument and then he hit her in the head with a bucket. And then I asked her, was it a small bucket or a big bucket? Like a 5 gallon bucket or just a small bucket? But it still doesn't matter. You ain't supposed to hit no woman with nothing. But anyway, she just told me that's the reason that her and that guy split up. It's because they had got into it and then he hit her in the head with a bucket. And I thought that was crazy. And then she had a falling out with somebody. She had a falling out with somebody in that trailer park. I think another girl. And it got kind of heated, basically just words and stuff like that. And then she came in. At this time, me and her are living together now. And she came in and she's like, she was fire hot. She's a redheaded chick, anyways. But she was fire hot. And she's telling me that, her and that girl had some words or whatever. And I guess the girl threatened to do some things or whatever. And she was like, I'm not gonna put up with that and stuff like that. I said, well, just don't egg it on. Just leave it be. Maybe you'll cool down, maybe she'll cool down, and everything will be all right. So she says, uh, oh, she calls her mom on the phone, talks to her mom, tells her mom what's going on, and she's still real mad. And at this time, she's worried about her well being. So I guess the girl, I don't know what the girl did, or if the girl showed her a weapon, or what happened, because this all happened outside. I wasn't out there. But she was, you know, wanting, to protect herself. So she got a 25 automatic, and it was just for protection, just in case something goes down. And then she was she's trying to see, she took the clip out of the handle, and then she was trying to see if there was another one in the chamber. So there's a pillow laying on the living room floor, and she pulled it back. But when she pulled it back, she had the trigger mashed, and when she let it go, there was one in the chamber, and it shot through the pillow. And I started laughing because I thought it was funny. I said, "Damn, you just killed the pillow." And it was a real accident because she didn't know if there was one in the chamber or not. But I told her, I said, "You're not supposed to hold the trigger down when you cock it back." But anyway, it shot through the pillow and it shot through the floor. I think it got stuck in the floor. I'm not for sure because we had carpet. You couldn't really tell where it went. But I finally told her to put that weapon up because she wasn't going to need it. I said, a lot of people just talk and threaten you and they ain't going to do anything. They just, in the heat of the moment, just mad, and saying crazy stuff. But she was just, wanting to protect herself basically. And I understood that. But in the midst of that, she killed a pillow. So I thought that was funny. But anyways, nothing ever happened about that. And she ended up, she ended up being all right. And that girl never said anything. They never said anything else to each other, and things moved on. So later on, I told her, I said, "See what I was saying? If you just a lot of times, if you just let stuff die down, it'll die down. But if you just keep egging it on, something's liable to happen eventually on either one party or the next. So at least, and hopefully, now that it's years later, hopefully she ain't killed no more pillows."